Hello there and welcome to another Premier League roundup video, and today we're going to be looking at a couple of games in the Premier League. We're going to be looking at Newcastle United versus Aston Villa, Norwich versus Everton, Wolves versus Bournemouth, and Manchester United versus Sheffield United. Liverpool versus Crystal Palace has its own separate video because as a Liverpool fan I like to take a little bit of extra time to really, soak up a good Liverpool performance. So feel free to check that one out as well. That one should already be up on the channel. So let's get straight into the first game here. Newcastle United versus Aston Villa. It finished 1-1 in a game that Newcastle should have won. They really should have won it. And let's make no mistake. Until a couple of changes were made, Newcastle, it was going to be like almost a 0-0. That's sort of what it looked like for me anyway. It just looked like it was going to sort of drag out. There were a couple of chances, a lot of chances for both teams. If we just look at the stats quickly over here, 14 shots for Aston Villa, 13 shots for Newcastle, just slightly more for Newcastle on target, but even then, not enough shots on target for both teams. They should be disappointed with that as well. Newcastle made the change to take Joe Linton off for Andy Carroll and Matt Ritchie. I think he actually went off injured and brought Dwight Gale on. It was actually this combination that actually brought around the goal not just a minute later after Dwight Gale comes on. An assist by Andy Carroll on his weak foot guides it into the pass of Dwight Gale, and it was a very, very good, well-taken finish. And I'll be totally honest with you, and I don't mean this offensively, I'd actually forgotten that Dwight Gale was a Newcastle player. But what a way to announce yourself back into the Newcastle team. Comes on, makes a good appearance, scores a good goal, a nice clean finish into the back of the net as well. A good assist by Andy Carroll, some hard work as well, holding off the people, using his physicality around him as well, and to use his weak foot as well. Very, very, very good well-worked goal. Now, the goal for Aston Villa, though, comes from Dwight Gale losing the ball. Loses the ball a little bit high up the pitch, and then Aston Villa are able to work the ball back round. Now, this is what I mean, and this is probably actually why Dubravka got a 5.8, because the ball comes in over this side here. The ball comes in, just the cross comes in. It's not a bullet header or a power header by El Mohammadi or anything like that. It is a glancing header around the 6-yard box area here, and Dubravka dives for the ball. Somehow, it just bobbles under him, and it goes in for 1-1. Dubravka's got to be really disappointed with that one. Really has to be, because this was a game that, with the chance that Newcastle had with Dwight Gale, they should have easily just been able to shut out the game, take away any of the danger that Aston Villa were creating, and see out the rest of the game. But Dubravka makes a mistake that gives them the 1-1 draw in the end, and it's a positive result for Aston Villa, more positive than Newcastle, I would say, because Aston Villa have got way more to play for, and the shape of the table right now means that all three of these teams right here, on 31 games played, have all now got the same points, 27 points. It will be goal difference that separates at least one or two of those teams. It's very, very difficult to see who is going to win the relegation battle out of these teams. I don't think Watford are really in it, and Watford will be playing, I think, tonight, and they're on 28 points, and they could take themselves away from these three teams. But, there's opportunities here for all of these teams to get wins, and they're just not taking them. They're not taking them at all. Obviously, West Ham came up against Tottenham, and that was a difficult game for them as well. But the likes of Bournemouth just aren't putting good performances together either, and we'll come on to that as well in a second. Aston Villa, I felt, had a good chance here, especially with the chance creation that they had, but for some reason they just cannot put all their chances in the back of the net. Hell, they can't even get them all on target, never mind putting them in the back of the net either. So a 1-1 over the face of it, if you just looked at the pure stats, is probably a fair result. But Dubravka, for his reputation he's had at Newcastle as a good shot stopper and a pretty good goalkeeper as well, ever since his debut, I think it was against Man United when he first made his debut, that's very disappointing what he did there in letting the goal in, and at such a crucial point as well, 83 minutes gone to concede at 1-1. You could have seen out the rest of the game, but it wasn't to be. It finished 1-1 for those guys there. Norwich versus Everton finished 1-0. It was an improved performance in some ways by Norwich, still toothless. Still absolutely toothless in every regard. It really was. And the corner that came in from Luca Dean, or Digne, however you say his name, Michael Keane was just left free to make a run and put his head on the ball. There honestly isn't a great deal of analysis that can be done about this game because it was just purely... You've got to be looking at this. This right here is the issue for Norwich. 1 shot on target, 9 shots in total. That's almost a 10%, maybe 12% percentage of shots that are on target out of the 9 that they have taken. They don't concede a great deal of possession. They're just not dynamic enough in getting themselves forward. They're just not dynamic enough moving forward. Again, I think another game in a row where Max Aarons has been the best player, a defender has been a best player on the Norwich team, and yet still they lose. And I think it's his attacking contributions that get him a high rating, like whenever he moves forward. And I think out of all of the players, because I believe that Norwich are down and out. I really do. Norwich, they're on 21 points. Daniel Farke has come out and said in his interview on Match of the Day at least, that they've got 7 games left to play. We could go on a run. Norwich have shown absolutely no evidence whatsoever of going on any kind of run apart from a losing run. They've got 20 losses, 6 draws and 5 wins out of 31 games so far. There is absolutely nothing that suggests these last 7 games that Norwich have that they're going to go on any kind of run to get themselves out of trouble. Everton were pretty comfortable, to be honest. Everton were pretty comfortable in this game. They had a lot of shots, a good amount of shots on target as well. Dominic Calvert-Lewin could have been better at finishing in front of goal. But you know what? They got the goal that they wanted. They got the goal that they deserved. They were the much better team over Norwich as well. And for Everton, it means that they move up into 10th position as well, which actually puts Arsenal down into 11th as well. But that is a big win for Everton. It means that they actually go into the top half of the table for the first time in quite a while, and they're actually not out of the race, or they're not out, they're in with a shout of possible European place like the Europa League or something like that, which is, while Carlo Ancelotti is an experienced Champions League manager, getting Everton back into a European competition would actually be a very good target for them. They've got a long way to go. They're 4 points away from Tottenham, who are in 7th. We don't know if 7th or 8th are going to give a European spot, and they've got some tough teams that are above them as well. But a very positive result for Everton, if we're being, and it was. There's nothing else to say really about it. Not a great deal of analysis to do about it. Coming up against a team that's bottom of the league, for me, I actually thought that Everton should have scored more against Norwich, but getting the win is the most important thing for these guys. We come on to Wolves versus Bournemouth here, and how Wolves only managed a 1-0, I have absolutely no idea. I really absolutely have no idea. Traore, again, absolutely fantastic. Really, really fantastic. And the link-up play between him, or the partner in play between Traore and Raul Jimenez is absolutely brilliant as well. Pretty much a picture-perfect and exact copy of the assist that Traore gave to Raul Jimenez against West Ham. Pings the ball in. Traore's got such a lovely weight to a ball. When he gets on that right-hand side, he uses that absolutely quick acceleration, burst of pace to get himself into the dangerous area, floats a ball in, but it's like he floats a ball with power, and that's something that you don't always see a lot of. To float a ball into the box, cool. Normally you don't get a lot of power in, or you overpower the ball and it doesn't get on the end of the striker. Traore seems to have a very, very good blend where he can get a good amount of power on it, but also get a good amount of height on the ball, but it will dip just enough, and it's perfect for Jimenez, who I think scored his 24th goal in all competitions or something like that. Anyway, fantastic output by him, but brilliant by Traore as well, and absolutely limited any sort of threat that Bournemouth had by taking them to no shots on target. These guys should have done better. No doubt. But they can't at the moment. And it's, again, almost like Norwich. I think Bournemouth are the most toothless out of the bottom 3. I think Aston Villa, out of these 3 teams, obviously over Norwich, but Aston Villa have the best chance of getting out of the relegation zone than Bournemouth do. And it's a real shame because Bournemouth have been a credit to the Premier League since they came in. They work on a very limited budget. They've played some very good football since they've come in under Eddie Howe as well. And Eddie Howe, even just a couple of seasons ago, was being touted for possible, Arsenal manager, possible England manager and stuff like that. It's a real shame. It really is a real shame. And they have to go on a hell of a run. Less of a run than Norwich need to, but they need to go on a hell of a run to get themselves out of this relegation battle, and I don't see it happening. Every performance that they seem to come up against, every team they come up against, they're just not able to do it. They are just not able to do it. Now, apparently this yellow card for Callum Wilson will rule him out of the next game, possibly the game after that as well. Don't know if Josh King is injured either. Whether Junior Stanislas is going to be available either. In fact, yes, he is there. He's right there. Normally, I've mainly seen him play as a forward, but even so, it just looks like curtains for Bournemouth in the Premier League, and it's a real shame. But you can't take away the performance that Wolves put in, and Wolves have been exceptional since they've come into the Premier League, and they only seem to be getting better and better. And the fact that they're pushing Manchester United all the way for this 5th position as well, with another clean sheet, 49 points for both teams as well. Very, very impressive performance by Wolves, and very impressive just in general by Wolves. So we move on to the final game, which is indeed Manchester United versus Sheffield United. And honestly, you're going to look at this. Anthony Martial has got a 9.4, and deservedly so. You score a hat-trick in a game, you're going to get a high rating. But it's the players around him that deserve the plaudits just as much as Anthony Martial. I'm definitely not taking away from Martial's goal scoring, but the people that were providing for him were absolutely fantastic. The first goal from which was assisted by Rashford, it almost looked like Rashford was taking a shot, but obviously from the angle it was, he just absolutely smacked this ball really hard, but very, very accurate into the path of Martial, who all he had to do was just turn his foot like that and let the ball hit it. Went in the back of the net. Fantastic. Really, really, really great. Well-worked goal. A lot of the hard work was done by Rashford, but Martial has to be the person that's in the right place, and he was. He was the right place, right time, every single time. Wan-Bissaka got an assist for a goal as well, very, very good before half-time, and then another assist by Rashford for Martial, and they could basically see the game out from there. Sheffield United just didn't threaten enough. They got in good positions, but when they got in these good positions to try and threaten David De Gea and try and threaten the goal of Manchester United, the fact that they only had one shot on target says it all. They just didn't. They seemed to. I don't want to use the term bottle it, but it essentially is what happened. They seemed to get in front of goal and get a little bit fearful, and they let that fear just overwhelm them a little bit, and they just haven't been the same Sheffield United that we've seen since before the coronavirus COVID-19 enforced break. They just haven't been the same team, and it is a shame. It really is a shame, because they've done so well since they've come into the Premier League, and it would be a real shame for them to drop out of contention for the Europa League at least. But they are in very real danger of doing that with the likes of Crystal Palace. All right, Crystal Palace have had a negative result against Liverpool, but it's Liverpool at the end of the day. You've then got Everton that are also chasing, Arsenal that still have an outside chance of getting a Europa League space if they can do something and put a run together. It would be a real shame for Sheffield United to drop out of contention for Europa League. I know that they're only 5 points behind Manchester United and Wolves, but it just doesn't seem like things are going very well for Sheffield United. For me personally, I hope that they can, turn their form around and get, because what a story it would be to come up from the Championship and get yourselves into the Europa League. The Champions League is a far shout, but they are actually pushing the likes of Tottenham, Wolves and Man United. They are pushing them very, very hard, and they have done since the start of the season as well. You just hope, as a neutral fan, I say a neutral fan, obviously I'm a Liverpool fan, but as a neutral fan to the rest of the table, that Sheffield United can sort of put a run together and get themselves back up in there. But hey, listen, that was absolutely a brilliant, controlled performance by Man United, and some people might be shocked at hearing me say, as a Liverpool fan, that, praising a Man United team. I like to look at things unbiased, and you've got to look at the facts that are in front of you as well. they did absolutely fantastic. They did absolutely everything good that was expected of them, and even more so the fact that Martial, beautiful third goal, like a nice dink over the goalkeeper that was. Just really good performance. You're seeing 6.9s and 6.9s for Bruno Fernandes and Nemanja Matic. Matic really frees up that rest of that midfield to go and play by being able to just, sit back and recycle the ball to other players that are going to use it a bit more productively, like a Pogba and a Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes getting a 6.9 is probably unfair as well. For his passes that he plays before goals are very key in opening up the opposition as well. It was a very good performance by all of the players that were involved here. And that is the end of the review. Please make sure to check out the Liverpool versus Crystal Palace review as well. That has its own separate video, as I said at the start of this video. But for now, I'm going to get out of here. We've got plenty more games to come this week as well, and plenty more games to come in general. So please stay tuned for that. I hope you've been enjoying these videos. It's a lot of videos to do, but it's so enjoyable to make at the moment. Not just because Liverpool have won, but just in general. Love making them. I'm so glad that the Premier League is back and in full flow, it seems, at the moment. So let me know what you think in the comments below of all of these games and games that are coming up as well. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will catch you later.